On this Motivation Monday, I'm asking myself this question. Can I improve the educational practice that takes place in my room through hybrid learning? Part of my reflection on my way into work this morning was, how can I leverage this hybrid learning model that our district's now going to do, and many districts are already doing or are planning on doing down the line. How can I leverage that to make learning better? And when I say better, I'm not talking about necessarily making it better than the at-home model that we've been working on. I'm talking about making it better than the in-person model that happened before COVID. Can we actually use hybrid learning to make educational practices better all around? That's the question that I was asking myself this morning. And there are some challenges to that question, of course, but I have some upsides as well that I'm really looking forward to that I think are going to really impact my classroom and some of my content areas specifically. To understand kind of what model I'm going with, our district's doing the AB method. So there are many different methods for hybrid learning. And the AB method is students are in school Mondays, Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Fridays are days where students can get extra help and come to school, or could just be fully at home days as well. It all just depends. There's a whole lot of stipulation there, I suppose, but that's not the point. The point really is that there are a lot of different ways to do this, and if you don't understand kind of our model, then this might not work with your model. So I did a video on 5 different models, thanks to John Spencer. That was my Wednesday, what do I call Wednesdays? Wednesday Wisdom, right? Where I look at somebody else out there who's doing an excellent job in education and just highlight what they're talking about. It's really, this whole channel is just all about me learning, and I share it because it might be valuable to somebody somewhere, but really it's about my internal verbal processing to understand my internal thoughts and to work out how I can best improve my practice. So let's get into it. How can we make hybrid learning better, in theory, let's say, than even full in-person learning? Let's think about some advantages that hybrid learning has. I can easily jump on the structural benefits, starting first with class sizes. Having smaller class sizes has a lot of benefits. First of all, your classroom management is totally different when you have half as many students in the class. Whether you're going from 30 to 15 or 45 to somewhere thereabouts 22 and a half or something like that. Hopefully you don't have a half student in your classroom, but regardless of what that jump is, it's a massive difference. Teaching a class of 45 students versus 22 students, teaching a class of 30 students versus 15 students, teaching a class of 20 students versus 10 students, there is just always going to be a massive impact on the classroom management, on student engagement, on one-on-one attention. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to class sizes, which is why there are schools that operate, their entire marketing strategy is class sizes, because they know that your student's gonna get more attention from the teacher if there are less students in the room. That's just the way that it is. Of course, then there's always that difficulty of how can we make our PPR go farther, and we want that per person revenue to be, or per pupil revenue or whatever, to be as beneficial as possible, go as far as it can possibly go. And that's why you end up with class sizes that we tend to see. I think on average around 30 kids. I don't know that, it's not statistically proven, it's just in my head as an idea. But I think it's about 30, right? And that's what I see anyway. Kind of tends to be the upper end of the spectrum, 30, 35, sometimes 40. So class sizes is a massive, massive improvement on from full in-person learning. Just structurally speaking, it's going to have a huge benefit in terms of the attention we can give children. That's going to be huge. Secondly, another structural benefit that I notice is how we can improve collaboration. I mean, think about this. If we have students in the classroom, this happens in my robotics class all the time. Actually, you probably can't see it, but I have a poster on the wall over there that talks about robotics jobs or engineering jobs. And I actually have sticky notes on there, and every day I rotate the sticky notes so that the jobs change, because you know what? Students love to be the builder. Everybody loves to be a builder. They all want to be in charge of the build. And then you have these other kids who are like, don't give me that responsibility. I don't want to be the builder. Please skip me on this day. I have both extremes there, not a lot of in between. Most kids either want to be the builder or really don't want the pressure of being the builder in robotics. And that's just one job, right? Well, what happens when everybody wants to be a builder is those other jobs are kind of pushed aside and they're not as important. And then I kind of find myself feeling like a nagging teacher trying to remind them they should be doing those different jobs. And then you have kids wanting to trade jobs on certain days. It's a mess, right? Well, what happens when half of your group is not inside the classroom? This gets me really excited when I think about it. If half of my students are at home, 2 of those jobs move out of this room. And if 2 of those jobs move out of this room, that very quickly simplifies the complexity of having different roles. If I have 2 students in the room, one of them's a builder, one of them's a parts manager. Those are hands-on physical jobs, right? And if I have 2 students out of the room, then we have documenter, we have designer, we have things like that that are less hands-on, that don't have to be physically there to impact the project. That is where I think we're gonna find, and programmer, of course, yikes. Programmer, computer programming, that's gonna be important for robotics as well. That's where you're gonna see, I think, a decent improvement in terms of collaboration. Now the students have to agree to certain roles. And because of COVID, we can't have shared resources going all over the place. So that is even an improvement as well, because I can't have the same kids all touching the same robots all at the same time. So spreading that out is gonna be even better, because then I have students who really have to be builder that day. And they really have to be parts manager, and they really can't mix and match a whole lot, because that's just the way it's gonna be. So that's a really nice perk that I'm excited about. Another one I would like to classify as role changes. I mean, it's kind of like the collaboration thing I was pointing out, how I had these 4 or 5 different roles in each of my robotics groups, but not from a collaboration perspective. I mean, think about how different roles are going to be in the classroom for our individual students when they're here for 15, or in groups of 15 plus, and when they're at home and in individual by themselves. All of a sudden, we no longer have a whole group model in teaching every single day. Although you might in the classroom, your students won't, because they won't be in the classroom every day. So rather than having this consistent, constant, we are always whole group, or we are always small group, or we are always whole group then small group, or we are always direct instruction then work time, or whatever that workflow is, it will not be the same, because half of your students will be at home. And so what that gives as a special opportunity for us, I think, is that we can have students while they're in the classroom fixing to one model. And then when they're at home out of the classroom, fixing to a different model. There's a role change in what the student responsibility and what the student life looks like, which can be a huge stressor. It can be a difficult structure to teach and to get students comfortable with. It can make building routines harder. Those are all possible things. However, it also gives us an increased opportunity to say, how can we maximize learning at home? How can we maximize learning in the classroom? And what do those 2 different roles look like, and how can we utilize them well? Which brings me to the crux of the matter. If I want to answer this question, which I'm trying to answer, that can we make hybrid learning even better than full in-person learning? If I'm trying to answer that question, just in terms of educational practice, I hope you understand, I would rather have all the students in the classroom. If we could, I would do that in a heartbeat. But because this is where we're at, I want to ask, can we make it better? So can we make instructional practices better? The crux of the matter is at-home learning. Because in person, we're going to have many of the same structures. A lot of the teaching methods are going to be the same as what we're used to. At home is a different story. And we've all experienced by now the challenges of teaching students when they're at home, the difficult learning environment, all of the different things. We're not going to go into that right now. So the question, the crux of the matter has to be, if we want to answer this question, we need to figure out how we can maximize at-home learning. And can at-home learning be maximized in a way in this hybrid model that is more beneficial, not just of at-home learning, but even full in-person learning? And I'm thinking it comes down to how we use it. And I think it's possible. This one's a little bit tougher, but depending on what you teach, if, for example, if you have to teach, if you have daily, fresh, new content, direct instruction every single day, if you have daily direct instruction that covers new content that you did not cover yesterday, in no way is it a review, then I don't think it can. I'm not sure how it can anyway. It might be possible. You're the person to answer that question, not me, because I don't have that problem. But if you are able to maximize your in-person for direct core instruction and really that student attention, that's the big one. Spending time with students, helping them work through and understand that with fewer students in the classroom, mind you, then I think it is possible for your at-home days to be more of an asynchronous review. You could record your lesson from the day before, and they could have some snippets of it that they could rewatch if you want to go really crazy with it. I do think it's possible to make it possibly better because of the structural benefits, because of the class size benefit, the collaboration benefit, those types of benefits. I think it is actually possible to make this model a better model for education. I know in terms of the grand scheme of things, if you're a parent, it's a nightmare to have your students at school half the time and then not at school half the time. And it's a nightmare for the school district to try and have students in and out of the building, and taking attendance is a nightmare. There's a lot of problems. But from an instructional practice, which this is kind of the most important part, we want our students to feel safe. Second to that, we want them to learn, right? So this is really, really important. If we can improve instructional practices in such a way that they're actually potentially more beneficial even than full in-person, of course this is all in theory, then I'm really getting excited. This is where I was at the beginning of the school year when we were originally planning on doing a hybrid instruction. I started to get so excited about the possibilities. There are huge upsides. So on this Motivation Monday, what I'm telling myself, and I hope is of some value to you as well, is that next week for my school district, whatever it is for yours, next week for us could truly be a massive improvement in educational practice, in your ability to be an educator that is effective and efficient and impacting students. I hope that's motivating to you, because it's firing me up right now and I can't wait to get started.